What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. So this is a video directed at anyone new who might land on my channel. For my current viewers, they're probably going to understand this, but maybe they'll want to watch it in agreement. Okay, so you're trying to learn a language, yeah? And you probably already watched a number of videos where they presented to you a new method you've never heard of before. It's called learn like a baby or like a kid. In fact, it seems kind of revolutionary because everything you did previously did not help you learn a language, and now suddenly people are telling you about this method where, well, why don't you just learn a language like you did your native language? It clearly worked. You speak the language. You understand this random guy on the internet. You're fluent in it. Everyone says you're really good at English. So why don't you just learn like you did as a kid? So that's where the baby method comes in. Basically, do what a kid does. You've heard about this, right? I'm pretty sure you have, because like every Andrew Tate lookalike out there is promoting this method within the language learning community. Now, they may even chuck in some really big words, these big words being comprehensible input, and they explain it to you. All you need to do to truly understand and learn a language is to watch enough content in that language at a level where you understand it enough. They may even tell you you need something like 98% comprehensibility of some type of text or video, and there you will learn new words and context. And this makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you're watching, let's say, some content, and you understand everything except for one word, you can kind of guess what that word is. So all you got to do is find content at a low enough level where you already understand everything. That could just literally be a guy pointing at a screen, his fingers showing you the things, and then you will just start learning these words just like you do English words. Because, well, you don't sit down and study English, do you? Some of you do, but like the vast majority of you don't sit down and study English. So clearly, this must be the way to learn a language, and everything we've done traditionally. You know what I'm talking about. Sitting there with a textbook, going through exercises lesson after lesson, maybe reading grammar notes, drilling like individual words in a deck of some sort, maybe a paper one or a digital one. Clearly that hasn't worked. You don't speak the language. So maybe all you need to do is sit down and do this learn like a baby method. And the more you search, the more you find out that this seems to work. Other people have done this. They've told you. They sat down. They sat right here and told you, I studied like you at school. I failed miserably. Then I discovered the comprehensible input or the baby method, where all I had to do was watch enough content, and now I fluently speak the language, and I may even present my abilities to you. And you see this and you're like, this makes sense. Of course. Why wouldn't we learn like this? This is how everyone's always traditionally learned. Well, unfortunately, I'm here to kind of bust your bubble and tell you it's not as easy as it sounds. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. What is the baby method? Sit down, watch enough content at a level, you will understand the rest, right? Cool, great, you've got it. Okay, now what's the problems with this? Well, you've already encountered these problems with your native language. Really? Yeah, think about it logically. Has there ever been a time in your life where you've heard a word, or you've maybe even said the word yourself, you've heard it hundreds of times, thousands of times, you've seen it in many different contexts. You think you know the word, but you don't truly know it. Like, I'm pretty sure you've encountered that situation before. You've learned this word, yet you don't really understand it. And one day, for whatever reason, you've decided, okay, I'm going to go look it up. And boom, you look it up and you realize you actually didn't understand this word. Guess what? You learned that word using the baby method or comprehensible input, where you basically just sat there, listened to enough of the language, and eventually you learned that word. But did you actually learn it? No. And in fact, you spent hundreds of hours potentially absorbed, maybe thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours, hearing this word over and over, and yet you never truly learnt it. So that doesn't bode very well for learning in a language that way, and you've been at this for your entire life. But maybe that's just a one-off case. Maybe it does work well in other instances. Well, yeah, I'll give you an example, okay? I'm learning Spanish using this method just to see how inefficient it actually is, and by God, is it inefficient. So I watched 8 hours of gaming content in Spanish the other day where I understood maybe 30% of it, okay? Because, well, I want to see at what levels you can actually pick up stuff and what levels you can't. At 30%, I watched about 8 hours and I picked up 3 words. If I used a traditional method, such as like a deck or something with like an Anki deck, I could have learned those words in about 1 minute with a couple of reviews per day, and those words I've learned. But I had to spend 8 hours watching gaming content to pick up those words using this baby method. But what about if I already understand the vast majority? That 98%. In that case, I should understand, right? Because I'm going to pick up the word in context. Well, not always. Because oftentimes that one word that you're missing is crucial to the understanding of the entire sentence. especially if it's some friggin' esoteric verb, okay? You're not just going to pick it up. You could hear it hundreds of times. And in fact, it's not even verbs, it's nouns. I'll give you another example of Spanish. I watched tons and tons of gaming content. I heard the word gente hundreds of times. No idea what it meant. I'd heard it in so many different scenarios. I should have been able to pick it up by now. At first, I thought it meant something about excitement or go there or here or like various other things. It took me about 15 hours of watching content before I understood that this word actually meant guys. Okay? Now, if I just opened up a dictionary, looked up that word after hearing it like 3 times, I would have figured out that it meant guys. So it is a highly inefficient way to learn a language. So when someone tells you that this is the best method to learn a language because you're just going to pick it all up in context, well, yeah, you can learn a language like this, but you're going to be putting in an obscene amount of more time. Now, does that mean we've got to scrap this? We just completely forget it, don't do it at all? No, what you should be doing is combining this, lots of input, with also active study. Now, for those who have succeeded with just input, did you really? Did you know nothing about the language when you started? Because most people when I talk to, they actually studied the language for years before they swapped over to this method, and then suddenly it magically worked. Because what has happened at this point is they actually knew the language. They just hadn't utilized it enough to be able to make the connections in their brain with what they were hearing, with what they've already studied. And after listening to enough, all those connections formed, and it seemed like they made rapid progress. Because they did. They'd finally actually utilized the language. But it wasn't the fact that they were just sitting there absorbing content that magically taught them. No, they had already learnt a shite ton about the language, and they were just finally making those connections. So, if anyone tells you that the magical method to learn a language within a very short period of time, like say 6 months or even a year or something, is just to sit there and watch hours and hours of content per day, is lying to you. Now, if that person at least says you need 98% comprehensibility, then they're probably being a little bit more honest. However, if they say you don't even need to understand it, you just got to sit there and absorb enough of it, then they're absolutely bullshitting you. And I just want you to be aware of that. That's pretty much it. Just don't fall for the baby method, okay? The baby method is not all it's been cracked up to be. I'm trialing it myself with Spanish. I know it is the worst method. I've spent over 120 hours learning Spanish via just this method alone, and I can guarantee you through my experiences learning other languages that everything I've learned in that 120 hours, I could have learned in less than 5 hours with just a active study regimen. In fact, probably within 5 to 10 hours, I could have been 3 to 4 times further ahead than I am now at 120 plus hours. So you're probably wondering, why do I continue doing that experiment? That sounds insane. Just so I can make these videos to warn you guys. That's what I like to do. That's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you all in the next video. If you're not there, I will find you and I will spank you, just like the baby method. Oh, one last thing. Babies don't just sit there. Yeah, they actually talk. And they also kind of like get feedback and error correction, but let's just not go too far crazy now.